Let's get started with our first news update, and it's a big one. Dustin Poirier is officially set to make his final walk to the octagon, and it's going to be in a high-stakes trilogy fight against Max Holloway for the BMF title at UFC 318. This will mark the end of an incredible career for Poirier, who has been one of the most respected and battle-tested lightweights in the sport. But ahead of this emotional send-off, Poirier revealed that he's undergone a significant mindset shift going into what could be his last professional MMA appearance. In an interview with Ariel Helwani, Dustin opened up about the lessons he took from his last fight, a tough loss to Islam Makhachev, and how that experience has shaped his current approach. He said, "I don't want to leave the octagon like I did in the Islam fight, where I'm kind of just second-guessing everything. I want to be sure of it. I want to walk into the arena knowing that this is the last time I'm ever going to feel this." Those words reflect a fighter who's no longer just thinking about legacy or titles, but about closure. For Dustin, this isn't just another fight. It's a farewell to a lifetime of emotion, pressure, and adrenaline. He explained that this upcoming camp, fight week, and everything leading to UFC 318 will be experienced with full awareness and presence, because he knows deep down, this is it. The last time he'll feel the nerves, the last time he'll step into the cage, and the last time he'll go to war under the bright lights. When he found out his opponent would be Max Holloway, Poirier's response was pure respect. "What a legend to be standing across from. I said legends only, and he's definitely all of that." Holloway and Poirier have shared the cage twice before, and both men have earned nothing but admiration from fans and fellow fighters alike. A trilogy with Holloway is the kind of legend versus legend moment that defines careers. But Poirier wasn't done sharing ideas. In that same interview, he revealed that he had actually pitched a unique idea to UFC President Dana White, a 4-man BMF tournament. According to Dustin, the lineup he had in mind included himself, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, and Dan Hooker. He said he and Dana sat down in Dana's office and discussed the idea, but there was some miscommunication. Dana apparently thought Dustin was talking about a months-long format, when in reality, Poirier was suggesting an old-school one-night tournament. Dustin explained, "Dana told me nobody would sanction that. I'd totally be down to do a 10-minute first round if they wouldn't allow one-night 5-round fights, or maybe a one-night tournament with 3-round fights. But yeah, there would just be way too many MMA rounds in one night. Still, I thought it'd be a cool idea. It's a throwback concept, one reminiscent of early UFC days, but not likely to happen in modern sanctioned MMA." Michael Bisping has since weighed in with his thoughts on Dustin's idea as well. Moving on to our second major story. A legend in the sport has some thoughtful advice for one of the UFC's fastest rising stars. Georges St-Pierre, also known as GSP, made an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show yesterday and took a moment to address Tom Aspinall and his current situation regarding a potential fight with Jon Jones. While fans continue to dream about the heavyweight showdown between Tom and Jon, GSP offered a more grounded perspective. His advice to Tom was simple but profound. Start focusing on what's next, because Jon Jones may not come back. GSP began by thanking Tom for his recent praise, calling it a great honor, but then he got right into his point. "I think Tommy needs to focus on the next task." He elaborated by sharing a personal experience from his own legendary career. He recalled the time he suffered a shocking loss to Matt Serra and how his initial focus was solely on revenge. GSP admitted that was a mistake because he had several fights lined up before that rematch could even happen. By becoming obsessed with one fight, he risked losing focus on the challenges right in front of him, and he sees a similar risk for Tom. If Tom's only focusing on Jon Jones and Jon doesn't come back, GSP explained, then he's not focusing on the right thing. That kind of tunnel vision, he warned, can be dangerous in a sport as unpredictable as MMA. Fighters must be ready for anything, and putting all your energy into a fight that may never happen is, as GSP said, a distraction. The Canadian icon went on to say, "Things that need to be done will be done." In other words, if the Jon Jones fight is meant to happen, it will. But in the meantime, Tom has to keep climbing. GSP also acknowledged the appeal of the potential matchup. As a fan, he said he would love to see Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. He praised Jon's legacy and accomplishments, calling him the best in terms of resume and skills. He also recognized Tom's mindset, saying that he respects Tom for wanting to fight the best in the world, but reminded him that at the end of the day, Jon's return depends on several factors: whether he's healthy, whether he's motivated, and most importantly, whether he's fairly compensated. He closed his advice by saying that that Tom needs to learn to let go of what's outside his control. He's wasting a lot of energy focusing on that. GSP said, "I know it's hard, but he needs to sort of self-hypnotize himself to focus on the next thing. By doing that, he believes Tom will continue to build a strong legacy, one that could eventually rival the greats. He's got all the tools to be the best," GSP concluded. But to get there, he needs to clear his mind and stay focused on the task at hand. Next up, let's talk about the heated exchange that recently took place between Belal Muhammad and Khamzat Chimaev, two names who have had bad blood brewing for quite some time. This latest interaction only added more fuel to the fire, and fans across the MMA world are watching closely. It all started last night when Khamzat Chimaev took a jab at Belal on social media. On his X, formerly Twitter account, Khamzat posted a picture of a pony alongside the caption, "Bully B, where are you going, pony?" complete with laughing emojis. It was clearly meant as an insult, mocking Belal's nickname, "Remember the Name," and portraying him as someone weak or insignificant. As expected, the post didn't go unnoticed. Belal Muhammad fired back quickly and confidently. He responded with a post of his own, sharing a photo of himself wearing a custom shirt that showed him and Khamzat facing off, symbolizing the fight that many fans have long wanted to see. Belal added the caption, "Going to middleweight," implying that he's moving up in weight and perhaps directly challenging Khamzat at his preferred weight class. It was a clever comeback, signaling that Belal isn't backing down and is willing to meet Khamzat wherever he wants. But beyond the online back and forth, Belal has serious business to handle. He's scheduled to defend his UFC welterweight title at UFC 315, where he'll take on the dangerous and highly skilled Jack Della Maddalena. Belal has made it clear he's not overlooking JDM. In fact, he's confident that the fight won't go the distance. He recently stated that he plans to break Jack within 3 rounds, showing that he's locked in and fully focused on proving himself as the rightful king of the division. This matchup is a huge opportunity for both fighters. For Belal, it's his first official title defense, and a dominant win could silence critics who still question his rise to the top. For Jack Della Maddalena, this is a massive step up, a chance to shock the world and dethrone the champion. But Belal's confidence remains unshaken. He believes his wrestling, pressure, and fight IQ will be too much for JDM to handle. As for Khamzat, his online shots at Belal could mean he's still interested in a future showdown, especially if Belal wins and potentially moves up to middleweight. A fight between these two would be explosive, not just because of their skills, but because of the clear personal animosity. The trash talk, the face-offs, and the clash of styles would make for a true fan favorite fight. Whether or not Belal versus Khamzat happens down the line, one thing is certain: the tension is real and the path to that clash is being paved step by step. For now, all eyes are on UFC 315. If Belal wins convincingly, his next call out might not be just for the welterweights, it could be for Khamzat himself. Now moving on to another news story that has sparked conversation in the MMA world. Daniel Cormier has shared his thoughts on the recent altercation between Anthony Smith and a fan following Smith's tough loss. After suffering a TKO defeat to Zhang Yongming, Anthony Smith found himself in an unexpected confrontation, not inside the octagon, but outside it with a heckling fan. The situation escalated after the bout, when Smith was visibly upset and emotionally raw from the loss. He revealed later that the fan had been talking trash even before the fight began, which threw him off, especially since the man was wearing a Nebraska t-shirt representing Smith's home state. This particular detail stung even more for Smith, who's always prided himself on being a Midwest warrior, rising up the ranks while representing Nebraska and the surrounding regions. Having someone from his own home jeer at him during one of the lowest points in his career was both painful and symbolic. Daniel Cormier, a former 2-division UFC champion and now a respected analyst, weighed in on the incident. Speaking candidly, DC said, "It's not always great fighting in your hometown. Sometimes those are the people that want to see you fall." He emphasized that while many fighters dream of performing in front of their home crowd, the emotional stakes are often higher, and that can be both a blessing and a curse. He continued, "Look man, everybody wants to fight at home, but it's not always the best. Think about the guys that have had retirement fights at home. How's it gone? on. DC was referring to the increased pressure, expectations, and emotional weight that often comes with a hometown appearance. The crowd may be loud and supportive at first, but when things go south, that same crowd can quickly turn cold or even hostile, as was the case for Smith. Cormier also pointed out, "We saw it last week with Anthony Smith. He got the fight in Kansas City in the Midwest, where he made a career for himself. Not only did he get his butt kicked, he got into a fight with a fan after losing." That moment, DC said, reflects a harsh truth in combat sports. The people closest to you, geographically or emotionally, and may not always want to see you succeed. Sometimes they secretly root for your downfall, either out of jealousy, competition, or a desire to validate their own struggles. He added, "When Anthony's losing and that guy's heckling him, it's almost like it uplifts that guy." That kind of toxic satisfaction, DC explained, is something many hometown fighters have to deal with. To support his point further, DC brought up another case: Korean Zombie's retirement fight. Zombie, one of the most beloved fighters in Asia, was knocked out by Max Holloway during his farewell fight in Korea. He was supposed to retire at home, got starched. "It's not always good," DC said, highlighting the emotional distractions that come with home events. More ticket requests, more friends and distant relatives suddenly popping up, and overall less focus. Cormier concluded, "That friend of a friend who normally couldn't make it to Vegas, New York, or California, he's there now because it's a drive, not a flight." And with that, DC delivered a hard truth. Fighting at home isn't always the dream scenario it appears to be. Now let's talk about Belal Muhammad's bold prediction ahead of his highly anticipated title defense against Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 315. With less than 2 weeks remaining before fight night, the excitement is building. This will be Belal's first official defense of the UFC welterweight title, and he's heading into the bout as a comfortable betting favorite. Many fans and analysts believe this is due to his dominant performance over Leon Edwards in their last encounter, a win that cemented his place as a legitimate champion in one of the UFC's most competitive divisions. When asked about his expectations for the fight, Belal didn't hold back. He predicted that JDM will break within 3 rounds, emphasizing that his relentless pressure and world-class grappling will be too much for the Australian striker to handle. According to Belal, his wrestling-heavy approach will be the X factor in this matchup, a style that has frustrated countless opponents in the past. But while Belal's confidence is sky-high, Jack Della Maddalena is far from an easy opponent. JDM has made a name for himself with his sharp boxing, intelligent movement, and underrated submission skills. In fact, in a recent training clip that made rounds on social media, JDM can be seen choking out Craig Jones, who is widely regarded as one of the best grapplers on the planet. That moment showcased JDM's evolution as a mixed martial artist, and it reminded everyone that he's more than just a dangerous striker. He's becoming a well-rounded threat. Despite the respect JDM commands in the MMA world, the build-up to UFC 315 hasn't been without its share of drama, particularly from Khamzat Chimaev, who never misses an opportunity to stir the pot. Recently, Khamzat posted an image on X, formerly Twitter, showing a small pony with a caption aimed at Balal, "Bully B1170, where are you sticking your nose, pony?" accompanied by laughing emojis. The jab was clearly meant to mock Balal, whose nickname is Remember the Name, and who has openly stated his desire to move up to middleweight in the future. In response, Balal clapped back with a picture of himself wearing a shirt featuring a mock poster of Balal versus Khamzat, captioned, "Going to middleweight." It was a subtle but effective response, suggesting not only that he's unbothered by Khamzat's trolling, but also that he's eyeing a future showdown between them in a higher weight class. The back and forth has fans buzzing, with many now asking the question, would you want to see Belal Muhammad versus Khamzat Chimaev? And more importantly, who do you think would win that fight? Both men bring very different styles to the table. Belal's grind-heavy, suffocating grappling versus Khamzat's explosive wrestling and raw power. It's a stylistic clash that could easily headline a pay-per-view event in the near future. Let us know in the comments. Is that a fight you want to see? Now let's move on to the last story. Charles Oliveira's manager says Islam Makhachev should vacate the lightweight belt if he, as we approach UFC 315 on May 10th, a lot more is at stake than just a welterweight title defense. The outcome of Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena could potentially reshape 2 weight divisions in the UFC. While the focus is on Belal defending his belt, many eyes are also on Islam Makhachev, the reigning lightweight champion, whose next move could depend entirely on how this fight plays out. The current expectation is that if Belal wins, then then Islam will remain at 155 pounds and likely defend his title against Ilia Topuria, the newly crowned featherweight champion who's looking to move up and become a two-division champion. That's a massive fight in its own right, a pound-for-pound matchup with legacy implications. However, if Belal loses, that could change everything. In that scenario, sources indicate Islam may move up to welterweight to challenge for the vacant or newly claimed belt, most likely held by Jack Della Maddalena. This would be Islam's opportunity to pursue champ status, following in the footsteps of legends like Georges St-Pierre, Conor McGregor, and Daniel Cormier. But this potential move has already sparked controversy and debate in the MMA world. Charles Oliveira's manager Diego Lima recently spoke out about the situation in an interview with Guam Cruz, expressing concern over what happens to the lightweight division if Islam decides to chase a second belt. According to Lima, if Islam moves up to welterweight, then the UFC must act. If Islam goes up, then he loses the belt, Lima said bluntly. Just like Topuria, I think the UFC will ask him to choose. If he says, "I'll fight at 170, then they'll have to create an interim." Lima continued, "I can't put a whole division on hold. Personally, I think it's absurd to hold an entire division. When a fighter goes up, he has to either drop his belt or the UFC needs to create an interim championship. You can't just have everything sitting idle." He added, "The division must move. Fighters work incredibly hard to get into title contention. Once they finally get there, they deserve a shot. When champions hold on to belts without defending, it slows everything down, and that's not fair to the rest of the fighters." With UFC 317 scheduled for June, if Islam does indeed move up, the UFC will have a short window to make decisions. One idea being floated is Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the interim lightweight title, but if that's going to happen, the UFC needs to make the call soon, so the fighters can prepare properly. Right now, both Topuria and Makhachev have reportedly started training for their next fights, but no official announcements have been made. The picture should become much clearer after UFC 315. Until then, all eyes are on Belal Muhammad and whether he can hold on to his title, because that result could trigger one of the most impactful title shifts in recent UFC history.